about the slight tardiness here.
No, don't worry about that, dude.
Okay, cool.
You're doing important. You're doing God's work. I can make an excuse for that, Dave.
Welcome to Shadow of Truth with your host Dave Kranzler from InvestmentResearchDynamics.com and Rory Hall from thedailycoin.org. Today is Tuesday, July the 21st, 2015, and we have returning guest Mr. Rob Kirby from Kirby Analytics, and we're going to dive pretty deep into the recent smash in gold and silver and touch on a couple of other items. What do you think? What's on your mind as far as this smash, this nonstop smash that started Sunday, and it looks like it started again this afternoon about the time that the pit closed?
Well, the overbearing thing to me is that it absolutely reeks of desperation.
Yes.
And I questioned a guy I talked with on the other side of the pond who's engaged in big procurement, and I asked him if this was an act of war, and he hasn't even answered me yet, and I think that means it was an act of war. And it's brutal. It's you know what? It's hard to watch it. And the manipulation has become so utterly in your face. And isn't it incredible as this ramps up, you have the likes of Martin Armstrong dissing gold bugs, saying that until these gold bugs come around to the notion that gold is just in sync with what's going on in the world, this will continue. And then he goes on to say his models say that we haven't hit the lows, and he still thinks energy prices can drop a lot more because that's what his models say. And as I said to my subscribers yesterday, I said Martin Armstrong's making comments like his models say this can go lower. All the inputs for his models are data, the likes of cap rates, GDP or numbers driven from GDP, inflation data, employment data, or derivatives of that. And these are all documentably cooked numbers. So all his inputs that he puts into his models are all documentably cooked.
And Rob, I know you remember this, as vividly as I do. I mean, Jim Sinclair took up Armstrong's cause to try and help and get him out of jail early. And Sinclair used to publish all of his writings, and he was a huge gold bull and a huge dollar bear when he was sitting in jail trying to get out.
You know his story of when he was charged with contempt and jailed. You know what happened to him? Because I actually forensically picked it apart, and I wrote a big paper on it years ago. I tried to talk to Martin Armstrong about it, except he won't acknowledge that I exist, and he won't answer me. But anyway, it was all documented on Bill Murphy's site because Armstrong had basically sought out Chris and Bill back. This is when he was still a free man and still running Princeton Economics, but the heat was on him. And he gave an interview to Chris, which got printed up and published at the at La Metropole Cafe, where Armstrong said that he knew manipulation of gold. His friend Safra, who ran Republic Bank of New York and owned Republic Bank of New York, had tapes and the proof of it all, and he knew where the tapes were. And it was days after, it was literally a day or two after that interview was posted at La Metropole Cafe, that Armstrong was arrested for contempt, thrown in the clink, and then 2 weeks later, Safra was dead. And and I wrote him and I said, Martin, have you any idea why you went to jail? Do you realize why you got chucked in the clink? You got chucked in the clink because you mouthed off and said that there were tapes and you knew where they were. And that's why the guy went to, and that's why Safra got killed. Anyway, this guy doesn't even know why he was rotting in jail for 11 years. Anyway, and then to hear him babble on about his charts, I just can't get over it. I'll just tell you something for what it's worth. A guy I was really close to, first guy I ever met in Toronto. This guy, Dave, I think he traded something maybe similar to what you did. Anyway, he worked in distressed debt.
Okay.
And he worked in distressed debt for a lot of years. He worked at. He started off working actually, my brother hired him into banking because my brother was a corporate loans officer years and years ago at a bank called Security Pacific, a West Coast regional bank.
I remember them.
So my buddy was trading distressed debt for about 8 or 9 years. And anyway, he had about 11 years experience trading distressed debt. He never lost money once. I had lunch with him about 3 weeks ago. And he told me he's lost money in 4 of the last 5 years. I said, "Oh yeah, how was that?" And he said, "Well, nothing works anymore." I said, "You're right and you're wrong." I said, "You're doing things intuitively correctly, but anything that makes intuitive sense doesn't work anymore because we don't have any markets anymore because everything's jacked and everything's rigged." And he said, "I know." He said, and he looked at me. He looked at me, and his face was white. He just looked at me and said, "The whole fucking thing's going to blow up." He used to think I was crazy. He knows. He gets it.
Did he say when?
No, he's just scared. And he told me he was 70% cash. He said, "I've never had that much cash in all my life."
It's interesting that you relate that story because I have one of my best friends in New York who I actually knew originally from when I worked at Bankers Trust. He works for a hedge fund and investment fund consulting firm. He said, when you can see the whites of everyone's eyes who are involved in this business when they're walking around New York City.
I know.
Because they all know and they're all terrified.
It's about to come down anyway.
Well, it's going to come down, yeah, you're right. And it is going to come down anyway. And the only thing that's going to be standing is physical precious metal. And that's a guarantee. And it's coming down.
I mean, do you see, Rob? I mean, and Dave, Dave, you've been talking about there being a physical shortage in October timeframe, and that there's information that you have garnered from a reliable source, and with everything that's happening right now, I mean, are we just seeing the absolute ugly before everything turns around? I mean, is that where we're at right now as far as the metals are concerned?
We are going to see in the very near future, we are going to see a run on physical metal in North America. Anyway, I'll tell you something, man. It is coming.
Is that what we're witnessing though? Is what I'm asking. I mean, is that where we're at?
We are witnessing. There are big players. There are big players that know it's coming, and I think the Western James Turk said it really well yesterday. I thought he had a very good descriptive. He said what we're witnessing is the Western world destroy its money, and that's what we're witness to right now. We're witness to the Western world literally destroying its money, and they're panicking. Because you know what? For the last, 10 years or so, these guys really, really haven't had any answers to anything other than to, sell a bunch of COMEX gold futures. I mean, that's all they ever do.
Well, what I find very interesting is that China comes out and makes their announcement, Wednesday or Thursday of last week, and then starting Sunday, gold is just getting
Listen,
slaughtered.
Gold dropped $50 2 minutes before the Shanghai market opened on Sunday night. 2 minutes before. And it was clearly before the Shanghai market opened.
I don't believe in coincidences.
No, well, anyway, they were sending a message. They were trying to frighten China.
So they still haven't learned that the Chinese investors, and as well as all the smart investors around the world, are watching them and going, "Thank you for the $50 dip."
It's called hubris, Rory.
Yes, it's hubris, and it's what it is it's a retarded ape beating its chest. That's what it really is. That's what it's come down to. It's a retarded ape beating its chest with little chimps running around at its feet named Martin Armstrong, Jeffrey Clamface Christian, and what's his name, Bart Gartman. Oh my!
I guess, Rory, to kind of circle back to your question, I think we are starting to see a lot of indications of some severe tightness developing in the physical market. And, away from the fact that the U.S. Mint had to shut down its production of Silver Eagles until at least August, I was stunned when a friend and colleague of mine emailed me, and I put the quote on my blog post yesterday. He manages money, and he's high net worth money, and one of his clients is a jeweler. The jeweler's refiner, the guy that he normally buys gold and silver shots from to make jewelry and to make his own silver bars, this refiner, it's a Midwest-based refiner, called him looking to buy gold and silver back from the jeweler. I mean, to me, that was just an incredible story. I mean, it tells you all you need to know about what's going on in the physical market.
You see, Rory, when you got people at the top of the food chain reaching down the food chain to try and recapture something they've already sold to their clients, things are getting tight.
Things are getting bad.
Yeah.
I mean, when I read that, Dave, that you had put out, that was like, or you and I had discussed that before you even wrote about it. I mean, that was just, it's amazing to me. It is absolutely amazing.
Well, and the other amazing thing, this kind of shocked the guy who's the jeweler, was that in reference to the selling that was going on yesterday morning in the futures market, the refiner just volunteered that, the system is manipulated. I mean, he just openly volunteered that information to the jeweler. I'm sure the jeweler already knows, but
isn't it incredibly amazing? At least to me, it tells me we're getting pretty close to the end when you have the likes of Hathaway of de Tocqueville Funds, and you have the likes of Ross Norman of Sharps Pixley starting to talk the gospel basically of GATA. And I'll just tell you something. These guys over the years have literally sniveled at GATA. They have sniveled at everything GATA has said. They've sniveled at everything GATA has stood for. And they have absolutely laughed and told us we were tinfoil hat wearing ninnies to utter such words. Well, guess what? They are now reading out of our book. And that's a mind blower. And that tells me this is pretty close to blowing up.
I agree with you, Rob, and I was actually going to throw in Hathaway's name. And you can throw Bill Fleckenstein into that also, although he still won't admit that the markets are outright manipulated. He kind of hints at it.
Well, what these guys are now, these guys have now moved into the self-preservation camp and couldn't see the steamroller inching closer to them when it runs them over. And their businesses are being destroyed. Bill had that Chris had that comment very, very accurately when he posted it.
Yes, that was a great comment by Chris.
Yeah. And it's just so true.
That's Chris Powell, the treasurer of GATA, for everyone who's listening.
Yeah. It's absolutely incredible. And this is becoming, we are certainly coming into end times. For the likes of these, call it, these people that we're citing here are the antithesis of gold bugs. They are the polar opposite of gold bugs. And they are now singing off the gold bug script. And I'll tell you something, the mainstream financial press still won't do it. And as I watch the Canadian mainstream press here just even today, I hear them reveling in the notion that gold is making 5-year nominal lows here in price, because they're all conditioned to this is the Canadian Business News Network, who has been forbidden to have the words manipulation against gold prices uttered on their network, because they're a believer in the people that brought us GMO food and disallowed GMO labeling on food, and these are believers in the government creed, that Obamacare is going to lower your health insurance. Patriot Act is really patriotic, and that the TSA are really our friends and aren't just here to grope us when we go in the airport.
No, they're just here to grope us when we go in the airport.
So these people are all drinking the same Kool-Aid still in the mainstream press, but some of their co-actors are starting to get off script. So it'll be nice to see if Mr. Hathaway and Mr. Norman see their invitations to the politically correct crowd events curtailed in the very near future.
This is to both of you guys. I mean, I know that, and we see all of these different convergences of markets that are seemingly right on the edge of exploding. Not the least of which is the gold and silver market that are apparently about to run out of product. I mean, if you don't have it now, odds are come November, December, you ain't gonna be able to get it. What's your take on that, Rob?
What I would like to say to you is that a very informed chap who's very, let's just say, in my view anyway, a very, very diligent observer of markets, had this to say yesterday. And this is just sort of an overlay, which sort of relates to everything that we've been talking about. And this was his commentary with regard to the smashdown we've seen, and the likelihood of possibly a run at COMEX, and what's also been going on with the GLD inventory as of late. And I'd just like to read this to you because it's pretty short and it sort of ties a lot of things together.
Okay.
And he says, I think GLD was developed and run by banksters to further extend the paper game as the COMEX paper game became stretched. This is back in the mid-double O's. And if you look, and you will find the GLD stock is deliverable at COMEX, and then he says, in brackets, laughing my ass off. And that it became the depository of largely what was left in physical gold in the West, including what was left of any Western sovereign gold. He says, I believe it is also used as an attack mechanism on paper gold in that they can sell the crap out of GLD and it is arbed to COMEX, shorts in bracket. I believe, and it has been demonstrated, that they never had to buy as much as they should on the way up and can certainly sell more than they should on the way down, and never have been fully invested in the metal they should. And if you look at their charter, it is again that they have vast discretion right in their charter of GLD. He goes on, I also believe that somewhere between 400 and 600 tons, not all that much physical, will be left, and a mad scramble will commence to grab what is actually left in physical metal in the West. And yes, miners can't come close to the amounts that are moving east, as in they can't satisfy the demand with the supply. And if you take note, not only has GLD stocks gone way down, but London depositories are exiting the business. And even Scotia, one of the big-time old metal repositories in the U.S., has reported huge outflows. We shall see. If you think any of this is not 110% possible, I suggest you look behind the curtain to the COMEX delivery rules changed several years back, or who the vault keepers are for the ETFs, or what the other loopholes openly stated in the ETF charters. You see, if you read the GLD charter and its prospectus, there's all kinds of discretion and holes, let's just say, or vague language when it comes to being certain the metal's there or whose possession it's in, because they use a system of custodians and sub-custodians, and it's not like we really know where the metal really is, and it could go missing basically at any time if you read between the lines. What this guy goes on to in summation to say, Western metal has been mostly gone for a long time, and what was hypothecated multiple times, but someone held has largely was largely or is largely centralized at GLD. Now he fears that won't even be available for theft or hypothecation or for repatriation or grabbed or stolen, because we're basically, in his view, at the end of the rope here. I concur with, I'm going to say, if not 100% of this, if you round it off to the nearest percent, 100%. So, this thing should have died, and this plays back into and is a response to your whole commentary about 7-year cycles. We should have hit the wall 8 or 9 years ago, in my view, and we didn't hit the wall, and the reason we didn't is because they brought around this new invention called GLD, which basically was another, it gave them 3 or 4 more shells to hide the ball under. And now GLD, with its, looks to me like their inventory is in terminal decline, and at some point GLD will become irrelevant, and GLD will not be worthy of or a suitable hiding place to hide the balls under. So now you see it, once GLD disappears, in my view, which it will, in my view, then you have fewer places to hide the balls. So you'd start taking shells off the table. We went through a period of time commencing with the establishment of GLD. I believe it was in 04 or 05. And that put more shells on the table and allowed the prestidigitator to hide the balls more places. Now the shells are coming off the table, and you can't hide the balls in as many places. And this spells big trouble for the guy doing the fooling. Okay? And in the end, we're all going to be the fools unless you're holding physical precious metal.
If you don't have it now, you better get your hands on it while you still can.
Hear, hear.
I mean, I've actually gone through the exercise of reading the GLD prospectus line by line. I wrote a big piece on it back in 09 that Turk edited, helped me edit. What he says about GLD is absolutely right. Now, the GLD inventory that you referenced as of yesterday was down to 694 tons. And the last time it was that low was in September of 2008, and the price of gold was like at $800. But I actually think that it's misleading to talk about there really being 694 tons in the trust. I think that's what they report as being in the trust. I think it's the actual amount that is sitting in the trust unencumbered and belongs to GLD is less than that.
Oh, me too. But the big thing is it's shrinking.
Yes.
And in my view, it looks like it's in terminal decline.
That's right, and it's been shrinking since December of 2012. I looked at the numbers again last night. It hit a peak of about 1,354 tons in December 2012, and it's been dropping ever since.
And just remember this, Dave and Rory. GLD is supposedly or marketed as being representative of physical metal. And we know that over the last 4 or 5 years, the physical demand for gold bullion has been growing quite possibly geometrically globally. And we've watched the inventory at GLD drop parabolically. And if you don't understand how those two happenings are not congruent, you don't understand. So it's either that GLD is a fraud, or the rest of the world doesn't believe that GLD has the metal they claim to have, or maybe it's both.
I'll tell you what else is interesting, Rob, is that in the it prescribes in the prospectus that if you own enough, I think it's 100,000 shares of GLD, you can go through one of the approved participating banks and exchange those 100,000 shares for gold, physical gold that you can remove from the trust. And I believe it was James Turk, when we had him on this show, had said that he knew of big private accounts who had tried to turn their shares in for gold and were denied. Now, there is a section of the prospectus that there's a subclause in there that says that the trustee can deny a request to exchange shares for physical, and I don't remember what the circumstances were, but so it's like, not only is it not a physical trust, I mean, the ability to turn in your 100,000 shares and pull gold out, everyone gets denied except the banks.
And then the whole notion, Dave, that these shares are deliverable against COMEX futures.
That's just absurd.
It's beyond absurd. It's beyond absurd. And anybody who can, with this knowledge, anybody who can actually sit with a straight face and say that the gold market is not manipulated beyond belief is, I mean, it's, you know what, it's beyond foolishness. It's you know, it's, in my view, it's criminally indicting to utter such words when you're in a position of public trust.
I agree, and I had forgotten that you could post GLD shares as collateral against contracts. I remember when they amended the COMEX contracts, they called it an exchange for physicals clause or something like that.
Well, no, I mean, it's just incredible. It's beyond. Listen, you couldn't write a script for a B movie including these items and have anyone do anything but laugh at it. Like, it wouldn't even qualify as a B movie. It's that bad.
The script has been written. It's called Enron. Only our whole system is Enron times 100,000.
Yeah, with a number of totes trying to run around. But you see that even the totes now, as we referenced a little bit earlier, some of the most shrillest, sharpest tongued totes are now starting to let's just say try to get off the ship. And and those are the names we mentioned a little bit earlier. And those totes are the likes of Ross Norman and of Sharps Pixley and Mr. Hathaway at the de Tocqueville Fund. You know, these are guys that, you know, to say the things that they've uttered in the last week and a bit is venom, formerly venom to them, and now they're speaking it. So you know what?
That's a good.
Draw your own conclusions. Draw your own conclusions from that.
I like it. I'm glad they're on the team.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. If anyone thinks that what comes our way, the day it arrives on our doorstep and steps into the living room, anyone who thinks that I'm going to stand up and say, nah, told you so, no, sir. Not going to be a happy day. Because the day that happens, the day the world will change for everybody. and we won't be coming back. And I'll tell you something. If there's any way that the powers that be can possibly spin it, they'll try and blame the whole bloody works on the gold bugs and say we caused it all. And I can see that coming. I can see it and smell it coming, because this is what they make a living doing. These are psychopaths, sociopaths. These are people that know nothing but self-preservation, and they don't care who they throw under the bus, and they don't care what level of criminality they stoop to. And you know what? At the end of the day, they'll try and wrap themselves in the flag and say they did it all for national security and for preservation of the status quo. And they'll try and blame us and say that we caused the whole thing to come unraveled, because this is the way they operate. So that won't be a happy day, guys.
Well, but don't you think that there's at this stage that there are too many large scale outlets?
Well, I'm actually kind of sort of hoping people will be too busy lynching some of these people to listen to them. Because there are some people that deserve to be lynched.
Yes, I get no argument from me. But my point is that, I mean, there's a lot of information on this side on our side of the table that says,
oh yes, and a lot of documentation.
Yes.
I listen, when it comes down to it, Rory, I'd much rather be playing our hand of cards than theirs.
Yes, absolutely. We may not be the prettiest thing to look at, but at least we tell the truth.
Yeah, we know where the truth is.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And with that, Dave, you got anything else, or should we let Mr. Kirby get back to his afternoon?
I think that last little commentary that Rob had is a great place to end, and I'm going to pull it out and use it as a quote in the write-up that I do to debut this podcast.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Well, Rob, well, ladies and gentlemen, please go and visit Mr. Rob Kirby over at kirbyanalytics.com. And Kirby, you want to tell them a little bit about what you got going on over there?
Well, you can find me on the web at kirbyanalytics.com. There's really not much else to say.
Well, all right.
I think we left it all on the table, guys.
I think you're about right. Well, all right. Well, we certainly appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time.